As Leo's speech at the UN Youth Summit reverberated around the world, the education platform's momentum surged. Donations poured in. Governments reached out. NGOs begged to collaborate. For a moment, everything felt unstoppable. But with great impact comes great resistance. Behind the scenes, powerful private interests had been watching Ethan's growing influence, and not everyone was pleased. In particular, a consortium of for-profit education corporations, whose expensive platforms were rapidly losing contracts to Ethan's free, open-access solution, began to stir. They saw Leo's rising popularity as a threat. He wasn't just a teen with a powerful story. He was becoming the new face of global education reform, one the world actually listened to. A man named Damien Voss, CEO of a major tech edu firm, led the charge. He called an emergency board meeting at his headquarters. "This boy and his platform are killing our business," Voss growled. "They're undercutting us at every level. Governments are pulling our deals. Investors are nervous. If we don't act now, we'll be obsolete in a year." His advisors nodded grimly. "We need to discredit them, disrupt their rollout, silence the boy." That same week, anonymous articles began circulating online, questioning Leo's background, twisting facts about his past, even suggesting that Ethan had fabricated the entire story for sympathy and funding. Social media exploded with controversy. News networks picked it up. Headlines read, "Was the boy hero a PR stunt? From street kid to speaker, too good to be true. Inside the billionaire's education empire, real impact or emotional manipulation?" Leo was devastated. "I didn't ask for this," he told Ethan. "They're saying I'm a liar, that I don't deserve anything." Ethan looked furious. "They're scared of what you represent, Leo. You're a living reminder that their profits don't matter as much as real people. But we won't play their game, we'll show them the truth." Maya stepped in with her strategy team. "Let's go transparent. Every file, every document, every timeline, make it public. Let the world see who Leo is, what we've done, and why it matters." Within 48 hours, a digital platform launched, The Journey of Truth. It told Leo's full story, interviews with the robbers who remembered that night, the investigator who found him, school footage from Kenya, Ethan's hospital record from the night of the attack. Nothing hidden, no polish, just raw, undeniable truth. Then something incredible happened. Children and teachers from around the world began uploading their own testimonies. Video after video, voice note after voice note, all thanking Leo, telling how the platform changed their lives. A girl from Syria said, "Before the tablet, I couldn't go to school because of the war. Now I study every day." A boy from Brazil said, "Leo, you gave me hope." The flood of support drowned the hate. The smear campaign collapsed under the weight of global gratitude. Even Voss's board turned on him. Investors pulled out. His company's stock plummeted. The world had chosen truth, and Ethan turned to Leo one evening after the dust had settled. "They tried to bury you," he said. "But you're a seed, Leo. You just grew stronger." Leo nodded slowly, no longer afraid. "Let's keep growing." After surviving the storm of lies and seeing the world rally behind him, Leo felt stronger than ever. But amidst all the noise, fame, pressure, and mission, there was one place he hadn't returned to. The alley, the one where it all began. One quiet morning, without telling anyone, Leo slipped away from headquarters. He boarded the city metro, headphones in, hood up, blending in like he used to. It felt like stepping back into an old life, one full of shadows and silence. He walked alone to the same narrow alley where, years ago, he had heard the scuffle, seen the masked robbers, and made the decision that had changed everything. The bricks were still chipped. The street lamps still flickered. A faded bloodstain lingered faintly on the wall. Ethan's blood. Leo knelt, placing his hand against the cold pavement where Ethan had fallen. He closed his eyes. "I was so scared that night," he whispered to himself. "I didn't know if I'd make it out. I didn't even think it mattered." But it had mattered. More than he ever imagined. Footsteps echoed behind him. Leo turned. It was Ethan. I figured I'd find you here, Ethan said gently. Leo looked up. I had to come back to remember, to remind myself who I was before all this. Ethan sat beside him on the ground. And who are you now? Leo smiled. Someone who believes in something. Someone who won't run from hard things anymore. They sat in silence, letting the wind carry the memory between them. The alley had once been a place of violence and fear, but now it felt like sacred ground, a birthplace of bravery. I want to do more, Leo said after a moment. More than beaches, more than visits. I want to build something that lives beyond me. Ethan's eyes lit up. Like what? An academy, Leo said. Not a fancy school, but a place where kids like me can learn leadership, courage, public speaking, technology. A place where forgotten kids become future leaders. Ethan grinned. Let's build it together. And in that moment, in the very spot where pain once reigned, a new dream was born. Weeks after their visit to the alley, Leo and Ethan were fully immersed in their next mission, building the Academy of Courage. Unlike any traditional school, this academy wasn't made of marble halls or endless exams. It was built with purpose and heart. Leo designed the curriculum himself, with help from educators and mentors he met along his journey. We don't need perfect students, he said during the planning. We need real ones, kids who've lived, struggled, fought, and survived. This place is for them. The Academy's core teachings focused on courage and leadership, how to speak up, take initiative, and lead others with integrity, technology and innovation, teaching students to create solutions for their own communities, ethics and empathy, understanding humanity, storytelling, and the power of kindness, survival to strength, turning hardship into purpose. Construction began on the edge of the city, repurposing an old train yard into a vibrant learning hub. Recycled shipping containers became classrooms. Murals filled the walls, many painted by Leo himself. The gates bore the words, "From struggle, strength, from voice, power." Applications flooded in from around the world. Kids from war zones, kids from refugee camps, kids who had once been written off. And Leo read every single one. One letter caught his attention. My name is Amal. I'm 14. I used to steal to survive, but I want to do more than survive. I want to help others, like you helped Ethan. Leo smiled. We're accepting her, he said immediately. Opening day arrived. Leo stood on the main platform, facing the first group of 100 students, each one with a different background, but the same fire in their eyes that he once carried. Ethan handed him a small box before the ceremony. Inside was a key. To the gate, Ethan said. You built this, you should open it. Leo stepped forward, heart pounding, and unlocked the doors to the academy. The students rushed in, laughter and curiosity echoing in the yard. As they explored, Leo took the microphone. I was once a boy hiding in the shadows, afraid, forgotten. But someone believed in me, and now I believe in all of you. Cheers erupted. That night, as the academy glowed under string lights, Leo sat on the roof watching the new students dance, eat, and bond. You've come full circle, Maya said, sitting beside him. Leo shook his head gently. No, I've just started. A new one. The next morning, excitement buzzed in the air like static. It was the first official day of learning at the Academy of Courage. Leo walked through the courtyard, watching students settle into the classrooms. Some were nervous, others excited, but all carried stories that could fill libraries. Leo stepped into the main lecture hall, where all the students gathered for the first all-school session. As he looked around, he didn't see troubled youth or underprivileged kids. He saw warriors, survivors, future leaders. He took the stage with no slides, no script. Good morning, he began. My name is Leo, and I used to sleep on rooftops and dig through garbage. I'm not here to teach you math or grammar today. I'm here to teach you how to be dangerous, not with weapons, but with purpose. A ripple of curiosity passed through the room, Leo continued. You've all faced pain, rejection, hunger. Some of you have seen things you'll never forget. But inside you is something that can't be taught. It's strength, the kind that grows in the dark. He walked down from the stage, standing among them now. I want you to remember something. The world will try to define you by your worst day. But here, we will define you by your next step. He pointed to a large wall covered in blank tiles. That wall is your story. Every week, each of you will write one thing. Something you've overcome, something you've learned, or something you're still afraid of. We grow by telling the truth, even when it hurts. A boy in the front row slowly raised his hand. What if we don't want to remember? Leo paused. You don't have to remember everything, but you do have to face it, because pain buried becomes anger, and anger buried becomes silence, and you were born to be heard. By the end of the session, students were lining up at the wall. Some wrote single words: loss, war, mother. Others filled full tiles with trembling handwriting. Leo watched in awe as vulnerability filled the room. Later that day, in the courtyard, a girl named Amal approached him, the one who'd written the letter that caught his heart. I wrote something, she said, handing him her tile. Dread. I was afraid my voice didn't matter, but I heard yours, and now I believe mine can too. Leo smiled, his eyes moist. It matters, Amal, more than you know. As the sun dipped below the city skyline, the once blank wall of truth glowed with words, some heartbreaking, others hopeful. It became more than a wall. It became the heart of the academy, the place where healing began. Life at the Academy of Courage was beginning to settle into a rhythm: morning talks, team projects, creative labs, and emotional healing. But for many students, especially those who had survived unthinkable trauma, progress wasn't a straight path. One afternoon, during a leadership exercise, a loud bang from a dropped chair echoed through the hall. A student named Jamal, a 15-year-old boy from a war-torn country, froze mid-sentence. His eyes widened, breath quickened. He was back in the middle of gunfire, back in survival mode. He collapsed to the floor, trembling. The room went silent. Leo rushed over, kneeling beside him. You're not there, he whispered gently. You're here, you're safe, I've got you. Slowly, Jamal's panic began to ease. He looked up, tears in his eyes. I thought I was done feeling like this. Leo helped him sit. I still feel it too, he admitted. There are nights I wake up thinking I'm back on the street. Your past isn't broken. It's part of your strength, and you're not alone anymore. That night, Leo called a staff meeting. We need to give the students more than education, he said. They need tools to manage what they've been through. Ethan agreed. Let's bring in trauma counselors, people who understand what they've seen. Let's teach them not just to learn, but to heal. Within days, a new space was created inside the academy. The reflection room, soft lighting, pillows, journals, art supplies, trained counselors, no tests, no judgment. Just a place to sit, feel, speak, cry, or say nothing at all. Word spread fast. Students began visiting, some daily. Amal painted her past in crimson and gold. Jamal shared his story for the first time. Others left notes of encouragement for whoever walked in next. Leo visited often, sometimes just to sit. One evening, he added his own note to the wall of release, a board where anyone could anonymously pin a message they needed to let go. Of his note read, I forgive the fear that told me I wasn't enough. The next morning, he found dozens more pinned beneath it, echoes of pain turning into whispers of strength. The academy was no longer just a school. It was becoming a sanctuary. The weeks passed. Something unexpected began to happen at the Academy of Courage. The students weren't just healing. They were beginning to heal others. Amal, the girl who had first written Leo a letter, became a shining example of this transformation. She'd entered the academy with a quiet strength, unsure of where she belonged. But as she worked through her past, something inside her sparked. She began to mentor the younger students, sharing her story openly and encouraging others to express themselves. One day, Leo walked into one of the classrooms to find her leading a group discussion. The students sat in a circle, each one holding a piece of paper with their fears written on it. Amal was guiding them through an exercise. "Don't keep it inside," she said gently. "Whatever you're holding on to, let it go. You have the power to choose what defines you, not your past, not your mistakes." Her words echoed through the room, and Leo watched with pride as one by one, the students tore their papers and threw them into the fire pit at the center of the circle, watching their fears vanish in the flames. After the session, Leo approached. "Amal, you've turned into an incredible leader," he said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "How do you feel?" Amal smiled, a true spark in her eyes. "I feel like I'm finally giving something back. For all the times I took, it's time to give." Leo's heart swelled. He saw in Amal the very essence of the Academy's mission: to turn pain into purpose, to teach not just survival but leadership, compassion, and the power to impact others. Inspired by Amal's growth, Leo decided it was time to take the next step. He wanted to create a program where the Academy students could give back to their communities, showing the world that no matter where you come from, you can make a difference. He presented the idea to Maya and Ethan. "What if we take this beyond our walls? What if we send these students into the world on missions of service?" Maya nodded thoughtfully. "That's powerful, Leo. Giving them the tools to make real change in their own neighborhoods and allowing them to build their confidence by helping others. It's exactly what they need." Ethan agreed, his eyes lighting up. "Let's start with local communities, schools, shelters, food banks. Get them out there doing something real." The idea took off quickly. Soon, groups of Academy students were sent out to volunteer across the city, building homes for the homeless, tutoring underprivileged children, planting trees in neglected neighborhoods. The ripple effect was felt almost immediately. At the Koti, same time the Academy began receiving letters from all over the world, from communities devastated by natural disasters, war, and poverty, asking for help. They wanted the students of the Academy of Courage to bring their new light and strength to their corners of the world. And so, the Academy's mission expanded. Not only was it a place of healing, but it was also a movement, a network of brave, young hearts making an impact wherever they went. One day, a letter arrived from a village in the mountains of Nepal, asking if students from the Academy could help rebuild a school that had been destroyed in a recent avalanche. Leo read the letter, aloud to the students gathered in the courtyard. "They need us," he said simply. "What do you think?" Without hesitation, Amal stood up. "We go," she said. "We take what we've learned here, and we show them the same strength we've found." The Academy buzzed with excitement as students prepared for their first international mission. In that moment, Leo knew that the power of giving back wasn't just in the act itself, it was in what it taught them. That to heal, you must first give, and in doing so, you heal the world. The journey to Nepal was more than just a physical one. For the students of the Academy of Courage, it was a test of everything they had learned: courage, resilience, and the power of community. Leo and Ethan accompanied the group, determined to see firsthand how their students would rise to the challenge. The village they were traveling to was nestled high in the Himalayas, a remote and rugged place that had been devastated by an avalanche just months before. The villagers had lost not only their homes but also their school, and the children had been left without a place to learn. As their flight descended through the clouds, the first view of the village took Leo's breath away. The mountains rose, like ancient sentinels, and below, the village was a patchwork of stone houses with a large, half-destroyed building at its center: the school. The students were nervous, but excited. They'd been through so much to get here, and now it was time to prove that the courage they'd learned at the Academy was real. Leo addressed the group. "This isn't just about rebuilding a school. It's about rebuilding hope. These children have been through a lot. They need to see that even in the darkest times, there's a way forward." Amal, who had taken a leadership role back at the Academy, stepped forward. "We've learned a lot here, but now we have to show it. We can Build something better, not just a school, but a future. The team set to work immediately. The villagers welcomed them warmly, showing them the extent of the damage. The school building was barely standing, with chunks of the roof missing and walls crumbling. But what struck the students the most was the sight of the children who sat on the dirt floor of a nearby building, quietly studying by candlelight. "We're going to change this," Leo said to the group. "We're going to make sure these kids have the same chance you all had." The first task was to clear the rubble. The students worked side by side with the villagers, moving debris and salvaging what materials they could. It was hard, exhausting work. But there was something about it that brought the group closer together. They weren't just building a school. They were building a bond between themselves, the villagers, and the future generation. As the days went by, the students took on various roles. Some worked with the builders to design a new structure, incorporating traditional Nepali architecture with modern sustainability. Others worked with the children, teaching them lessons in courage, leadership, and community, skills that would serve them well no matter what the future held. But the true test came when a second avalanche warning was issued. The village was on high alert, and the children were once again scared. The students had to make a decision: continue working or evacuate. Leo gathered the group that night, their faces illuminated by the flickering fire. "I know you're scared," he said, "but we're here for a reason. These kids need us, to show them that fear doesn't control us. We move forward together no matter what." It wasn't an easy decision, but the students rallied. They decided to stay and continue their work, even if it meant putting their own safety at risk. The next day, they reinforced the buildings and created evacuation plans. They even held drills to ensure that the children knew what to do in case of an emergency. In the end, the avalanche never came, but the lessons they learned would stay with them forever. As the final stone was laid in the new school, the villagers gathered to celebrate. The children ran into their new classrooms, laughing and shouting, their eyes wide with wonder. Leo stood with Amal, watching the transformation. "You did it," he said, his voice filled with pride. Amal looked at the students who had helped rebuild the school. "We did it," she said softly. Together, the students, once survivors of their own struggles, had now become the builders of a brighter future. They had not only given hope to the village, but had proven to themselves that there was nothing they couldn't accomplish when they worked as one. After several weeks of hard work in Nepal, the Academy of Courage students had completed the new school. It wasn't just a building, it was a symbol of strength, resilience, and the power of community. The children of the village were once again able to learn and dream, their future brighter because of the efforts of the Academy's students. The last of the supplies were packed and the team prepared to leave. Leo stood in the center of the village, taking it all in. The mountains loomed large, standing as timeless guardians over the village that had now been restored, in a way no one could have imagined just a few weeks ago. The children came to say their goodbyes, some shy, some eager to show the Academy students their gratitude in their own way. A young girl, no older than 10, handed Amal a small woven bracelet. "For you," she said, her eyes bright with appreciation, "because you gave us a new school." Amal smiled, holding the bracelet close to her heart. "Thank you. This will remind me that courage can change everything." The flight back was quiet, each student reflecting on the journey they had just completed. Leo could feel the change in them. They were no longer the same young people who had first stepped into the Academy's doors. They were leaders, healers, and warriors of hope. When they landed back home, the city felt both familiar and distant. The noise, the hustle, the distractions, it all seemed less important now. They had seen real hardship. They had rebuilt from the ground up, and now their mission was far from over. The students gathered at the Academy's courtyard, where Leo stood before them. There was a calmness in his voice, but also a sense of urgency. "You've changed the lives of people in Nepal," he said. "But the world doesn't stop there. What we've done together is just the beginning. There are so many more people who need the light you've discovered in yourselves. So let's take that light and keep sharing it." The students looked at one another, their eyes alight with purpose. They had come to the academy with their own burdens and struggles, but now they were leaving with something far more powerful: hope and the determination to make a difference. As the weeks passed, the academy began to take on a new shape. Students, who had been through the most profound transformations, began leading workshops and creating projects that reached out to other communities. Some focused on local social issues. Others worked with organizations that provided aid to other countries. But all shared the same goal: to help others the way they had been helped. Amal, now one of the academy's most trusted leaders, took on the responsibility of creating an outreach program that connected students with global communities in need. She, along with a group of dedicated students, helped form partnerships with schools in countries recovering from conflict, bringing them resources, education, and emotional support. The ripple effect from the academy's mission spread far and wide, and it was clear: these students were not just survivors, they were change makers. As for Leo, he often found himself standing at the academy's gates, looking out at the horizon. He remembered the boy he once was, the one hiding in alleyways, afraid of his future. And now, as he looked at the vibrant, growing community of young leaders around him, he knew he had found his purpose. The Academy of Courage was no longer just a dream. It was a living testament to the fact that no matter where you come from, or what you've faced, you have the power to change the world. And it was just getting started. The success of the mission in Nepal had been the catalyst for something bigger. The Academy of Courage, once a small institution, now stood as a beacon for young people from around the world who were looking for a place to heal and a way to make a difference. But Leo knew that the real challenge was just beginning. Amal's outreach program had already made a huge impact in Nepal, and now she and her team were working tirelessly to create partnerships with schools in other conflict-stricken areas. The academy had become a hub for young people not just learning to heal, but learning to lead and make real, tangible change. It was during a strategy meeting in the academy's main hall that Leo shared his boldest vision yet. "We've been doing great work locally and internationally," Leo began, his voice steady but filled with conviction. "But what if we could do more? What if we could build a global initiative that connects the youth from every corner of the world so they can collaborate, learn, and share their experiences?" The room fell silent, and all eyes turned to him. "I'm talking about creating a network, a community, where young leaders who have overcome adversity can come together, not just to share what they've learned, but to work on solving global issues: climate change, poverty, human rights, education." Amal, who had been a driving force behind the success of the Nepal project, nodded eagerly. "If we create this network, these young leaders could support each other, teach each other, and take action together. We could empower a new generation to become change agents in their own communities and across borders." Ethan, who had been quietly listening, leaned forward. "We have the connections now, the resources, the momentum. We could build an international network of young people who understand that their struggles are universal. Imagine the impact if every academy, every school, every group of young leaders came together under one banner of global solidarity." Leo smiled, feeling the energy in the room shift. This was it. This was the moment the academy could expand beyond its walls, beyond what they had ever imagined. With the help of Amal and Ethan, Leo set to work on making the global initiative a reality. The first step was simple: reach out. They sent letters to schools, community centers, and youth organizations around the world, inviting them to join a network of youth leaders. It wasn't just about charity or aid, it was about collaboration, about sharing ideas, about using their collective experiences to drive change on a global scale. Within weeks, they had received dozens of responses from young people in Africa, South America, Europe, and Asia. From the streets of Rio de Janeiro to the refugee camps in Syria, young leaders who had once felt isolated in their struggles now had a platform to connect, to share their wisdom, and to take action together. The Academy of Courage became the central point of this network, offering training, mentorship, and resources for those involved. Workshops were held virtually, where youth leaders could meet online, collaborate on projects, and learn from experts in various fields. From mental health awareness to environmental sustainability, each group took on a different focus, working together to tackle the pressing issues of their time. Amal, now a key figure in the global initiative, traveled to various countries meeting with local youth leaders and helping them launch their own community programs. In each country, she found a unique challenge, but also a unique strength, a group of young people determined to make a difference. One of the first projects that came from the global initiative was a partnership with a group of students from Kenya who had been working on a sustainable farming program to combat food insecurity. The students in the Academy of Courage, in collaboration with the Kenyan students, helped build a solar-powered irrigation system that would provide water to drought-stricken areas. Other projects followed quickly. A program in India to provide education to children living in slums, a campaign in the Philippines to raise awareness about climate change, and a community health initiative in Uganda to combat malaria. As the network grew, the stories of these young leaders spread far and wide, inspiring others to join the movement. The Academy of Courage, once a small school in a quiet city, had become the epicenter of a global movement, a movement driven by the power of young people who had found their voices and were using them to create lasting change. One evening, as Leo watched the sunset from the Academy's rooftop, he felt a sense of fulfillment he hadn't known before. The journey had been long, and the road ahead was still uncertain. But as he looked out over the students working, collaborating, and sharing their ideas, he knew one thing for sure: the world was changing. And these young people, these brave, resilient, and compassionate leaders, were the ones making it happen. As the global initiative expanded, Leo and the Academy of Courage students realized they needed a way to bring together all the youth leaders from around the world for a more immersive experience. The next step in their journey was clear: the creation of an annual event that would unite these young leaders to share ideas, collaborate on solutions, and strengthen their resolve to tackle the world's biggest challenges. The idea was born out of a conversation between Leo, Amal, and Ethan, one late afternoon in the Academy's courtyard. The air was warm, and the sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the campus. "We've built something incredible," Leo said, watching a group of students from various countries exchange ideas in the distance. "But we need a place where all of them can come together, a place where they can meet face to face, collaborate, and inspire each other, something that will bring this global initiative to the next level." Amal's eyes sparkled as she heard the vision take shape. "What if we host a summit? An event where young leaders from every corner of the world can come to exchange knowledge, share success stories, and plan new initiatives?" Ethan grinned. "I love that idea, a summit of change, where the world's most passionate and creative youth can come together and build the future they want." The idea for the Summit of Change was born that day. The first event would be held at the Academy of Courage's headquarters, but the ultimate goal was to take it global. The summit would be a platform for youth leaders to share their projects, discuss global issues, and work together on solutions for a better world. Planning the summit was no small feat. Teams of Academy students worked around the clock to coordinate logistics, create schedules, and reach out to keynote speakers. They wanted the event to be a celebration of what young people could do when given the opportunity to lead. And so, they invited activists, educators, entrepreneurs, and even world leaders who had been advocating for youth empowerment. As the day of the summit approached, the excitement at the Academy was palpable. Students arrived from every continent. Some were familiar faces, others were new, but all shared the same determination to make a difference. The air buzzed with anticipation. The summit was a week-long event filled with workshops, panel discussions, and hands-on projects. Each day, the students focused on a different global issue: education, climate change, gender equality, human rights, and health. They met in small groups, collaborated on new ideas, and worked together to create tangible solutions. The opening ceremony was a sight to behold. The Academy's courtyard, usually a tranquil place, was transformed into a vibrant hub of activity, with banners displaying the summit's theme: Empowered Youth Global Change. Hundreds of young leaders from all walks of life stood side by side, their faces alight with hope and possibility. Leo took the stage to open the summit, his voice calm but filled with conviction. Today marks the beginning of something incredible. We are here not because we are powerless, but because we are powerful. We are the changemakers, the dreamers, and the doers. And together, we will shape the future. Amal followed Leo, standing beside him as she addressed the crowd. Each one of us has a unique story. We faced obstacles, struggled with pain, and encountered countless challenges. But today, we stand here not as victims, but as leaders. And we will build a world that is more just, more compassionate, and more sustainable. The applause that followed was deafening, and it was clear that the students felt a deep sense of unity. This wasn't just another conference, it was a movement. Throughout the summit, the students presented their ongoing projects, shared lessons they had learned from their respective countries, and brainstormed new ways to work together. The atmosphere was one of collaboration, not competition. Everyone was there to help each other succeed. One of the most powerful moments of the summit came during a group workshop on climate change. Students from different countries, each representing a community with its own environmental struggles, came together to brainstorm solutions. The group from Kenya spoke about sustainable farming techniques, while students from the Philippines shared ideas for disaster preparedness in the face of typhoons. The students from Brazil discussed deforestation and its impact on the rainforest, while those from Europe focused on renewable energy solutions. As the group shared their ideas, it became clear that they were not just talking about problems. They were actively working toward solutions. The students broke into smaller teams to develop specific projects that would be implemented in their communities, with the support of the Academy's global network. The summit culminated in a closing ceremony, where each group presented its project to the entire audience. The final presentations were filled with hope, innovation, and actionable goals. They had not just discussed the world's problems, they had crafted a blueprint for positive change. Leo, Amal, and Ethan watched as the students stood together on stage, their faces full of pride. The summit had been a success, not because it had been flawless, but because it had sparked something bigger. It had created a platform for young people to share their stories, collaborate on solutions, and most importantly, to understand that they were not alone in their fight for a better world. As the event ended, Leo turned to Amal, his heart full. "This is just the beginning, isn't it?" Amal smiled, her eyes shining with excitement. "Yes, this is just the start of something that will change the world." The Summit of Change was a turning point, not just for the Academy of Courage, but for every young leader who attended. As the weeks passed, the energy from the summit continued to ripple outward, affecting not only the participants but also their communities back home. The global network that had been formed during the summit blossomed into something greater than anyone could have imagined. Students from every corner of the world began sharing their successes and challenges with one another. They were no longer isolated in their efforts. They were part of a larger movement, united by the common goal of creating a better future. Amal, who had worked tirelessly behind the scenes to help make the summit a success, found herself inspired by the incredible potential of the youth leaders. They were all so passionate, so determined to create change in their communities. She decided to take the next step and began traveling to visit the projects that had been launched during the summit. Her first stop was Kenya, where a group of students had collaborated with local farmers to introduce sustainable farming methods that would help combat food insecurity. The students had worked hand in hand with the farmers to build irrigation systems, improve crop yields, and teach the community how to grow food that was both environmentally friendly and economically viable. As Amal arrived in the small village, she was welcomed with open arms. The community had embraced the initiative and the results were evident. The land was thriving, and the local economy was beginning to flourish. Children who had once gone to bed hungry were now receiving regular meals, and the farmers were more confident in their ability to provide for their families. "I never thought I'd see the day when my community could be this self-sufficient," said a local farmer named Kofi, as he showed Amal around the fields. "Thanks to the students from the Academy of Courage, we have learned how to take care of the land and make it work for us." Amal was moved by the transformation she saw. The project had not only improved the community's agricultural practices, but had also brought people together in ways that had been unthinkable before. The village, once divided by poverty, was now united in their shared success. Next, Amal traveled to the Philippines, where a group of students had focused on disaster preparedness. The country had been ravaged by typhoons in recent years, and the students had worked with local communities to create evacuation plans, build storm shelters, and teach families how to protect their homes. When Amal arrived, she met with local BO officials and community leaders to see how the project was progressing. The students had not only helped build infrastructure, but had also empowered the community to take ownership of their safety. "We've learned to work together," said Maria, a local teacher who had helped organize the initiative. "The students from the Academy of Courage gave us the knowledge and resources to protect ourselves. Now, we feel more prepared for whatever comes our way." Amal was proud of what had been achieved. The resilience and determination of the people she met were a testament to the power of collaboration and the importance of empowering local communities. Her travels continued to South America, where students from Brazil were working on a reforestation project in the Amazon rainforest. The students had partnered with local environmental groups to plant trees, restore damaged ecosystems, and raise awareness about the importance of preserving the rainforest. As Amal walked through the newly planted forest, she saw the tangible impact of the project. The once barren land was now covered in lush greenery, and the air was thick with the sounds of wildlife returning to the area. "We are restoring what was lost," said Rafael, a student from Brazil who had led the initiative. "The rainforest is not just a source of oxygen for the planet, it's a home for millions of species, and it's our responsibility to protect it." Amal could see the pride in Rafael's eyes. The project had not only helped the environment, but had also brought together people from all walks of life, farmers, scientists, and local activists, working side by side to restore the rainforest. By the time Amal returned to the academy, she had seen firsthand the incredible impact the summit had had on communities around the world. It was clear that the students of the Academy of Courage were more than just dreamers, they were doers. They were taking the lessons they had learned, putting them into action, and creating positive change in every corner of the globe. Leo, who had stayed behind to oversee the Academy's operations, met Amal when she returned. As they sat together, in the Academy's courtyard, she shared the stories of the projects she had visited. "They're doing it," Amal said, her voice filled with awe. "The students are changing the world, one project at a time, one community at a time. And it's just the beginning." Leo smiled, his heart swelling with pride. "We've built something that will last. The ripple effect is just starting to spread." As they looked out at the students working in the courtyard, it was clear that the academy had become more than a place of learning. It had become a movement that was driven by the belief that young people, when given the opportunity, could lead the charge for a brighter, more sustainable future. And the best part was, it wasn't just their vision anymore. It was the vision of thousands of young leaders around the world, connected by the belief that they had the power to create change. As the global initiative continued to grow, Leo and Amal realized that their journey was far from over. The Academy of Courage had become a symbol of hope and empowerment for young leaders around the world. But the challenges they faced were evolving. The world was changing rapidly, and so too were the needs of the communities they served. The momentum generated by the Summit of Change was undeniable, But Leo knew that to truly make a lasting impact, they had to deepen their connections and focus on creating sustainable change. It wasn't enough to just help one community at a time. They needed to create a network of support that could keep these projects thriving long after the initial excitement had worn off. Amal, who had been traveling constantly to oversee the various projects, returned to the academy with a new perspective. She was eager to share her thoughts with Leo. "I've seen something incredible on my travels," Amal began as they sat in Leo's office, the walls lined with photographs from various projects. "The students are doing amazing work, but I've noticed something that could make a huge difference: the power of connection. We've built a network, but it's still fragile. We need to strengthen it to ensure that the students have the resources and support they need to sustain their projects long term." Leo nodded thoughtfully. "You're right. The initial enthusiasm is important, but we can't let it fade. We need to help the students build networks within their own communities. That way, they have a support system that doesn't just rely on us." Amal's eyes lit up. "Exactly. It's not enough to just have these incredible projects. We need to create local networks of support that will keep the momentum going. By connecting these youth leaders to local mentors, businesses, and organizations, we can make sure the change they're creating is sustainable." The concept was simple, but it required a deeper level of commitment from everyone involved. Leo and Amal decided to launch a new program called the Connect Initiative, a mentorship and resource-sharing network designed to strengthen the bonds between young leaders, local businesses, and community organizations. The program's goal was to build a support system that allowed youth leaders to tap into resources like funding, expertise, and partnerships. It would connect students from the academy with local entrepreneurs, government leaders, and organizations that shared their vision for positive change. By doing so, they hoped to ensure that the work the students had started would continue, even after they had moved on to new projects or challenges. The Connect initiative would not only offer mentorship and resources, but also provide a platform for students to collaborate and learn from each other. Every community had its own set of challenges and opportunities, and by sharing their experiences, the students could help one another navigate these obstacles. As the program was launched, Leo and Amal reached out to their network of contacts to invite businesses, philanthropists, and activists to join the initiative. The response was overwhelming. Entrepreneurs from all over the world, impressed by the students' dedication and vision, offered to sponsor projects, provide internships, and mentor young leaders. Local government officials pledged their support, understanding that empowering youth was key to creating lasting change in their communities. One of the first success stories to emerge from the Connect initiative was a project led by Maya, a young leader from India who had been part of the Academy's education program. Maya had been working on a project to provide education to children living in slums, but she faced constant challenges in securing funding and resources. Through the Connect initiative, Maya was paired with a local entrepreneur named Raj, who had built a successful technology company. Raj not only provided financial support for Maya's project, but also helped her connect with other businesses and organizations that could offer supplies, volunteers, and training. With Raj's help, Maya was able to expand her program and reach more children in need. The success of her project, in turn, inspired other local leaders to join the Connect initiative, creating a ripple effect of collaboration and shared success. Meanwhile, in the Philippines, a group of students focused on disaster preparedness had struggled to get the local government to fully support their efforts. Through the Connect initiative, they connected with a group of environmental activists who had experience working with government officials and policymakers. With their help, the students were able to navigate the bureaucratic process and secure the necessary support to expand their disaster relief efforts. As these stories began to multiply, Leo and Amal realized that the true power of their network lay in its ability to create lasting, interconnected communities of change. The students were no longer working in isolation. They were part of a larger ecosystem of activists, entrepreneurs, educators, and policymakers, all working toward the common goal of creating a better world. The Connect initiative was a testament to the idea that when people come together, they can achieve far more than they could alone. It was about building relationships, forging partnerships, and supporting one another through both the successes and the challenges. As Leo and Amal watched the impact of the Connect initiative unfold, they knew that the Academy's vision had been realized in ways they had never imagined. The world was not just changing, it was being reshaped by the power of connection, collaboration, and the unwavering determination of young leaders who refused to accept the status quo. And that was what made all the difference. As the year came to a close, the world seemed to be on the brink of something extraordinary. The Connect initiative had not only empowered youth leaders, but it also sparked a movement of unity, innovation, and collaboration. Communities were flourishing, projects were thriving, and the ripple effect of change was spreading faster than anyone had anticipated. At the Academy of Courage, the energy was palpable. Students were finalizing their initiatives, sharing their progress with mentors, and preparing to showcase their accomplishments at the upcoming Global Youth Leadership Summit. It was going to be a celebration of everything they had achieved, but more importantly, it was going to be a platform to look toward the future, an opportunity to set the course for the next chapter of their global movement. Leo and Amal sat together in the Academy's Central Hall, looking out at the bustling campus. The room was filled with the sound of students discussing their projects, collaborating on new ideas, and celebrating their progress. "I can't believe how far we've come," Amal said, her voice full of pride. "This place was just an idea once, and now it's a global network of changemakers." Leo smiled, his heart full. "It's hard to believe. What started as a small initiative has grown into something that's impacting lives all over the world. But we can't stop here. The world needs us now more than ever." Amal nodded, her eyes focused on the future. "You're right. We've built the foundation, but now we have to make sure it stands strong for generations to come. We need to ensure that these young leaders have the tools, resources, and support to continue this work long after we're gone." Leo's thoughts turned to the young leaders they had met on their travels, the students who had embraced their roles as changemakers with unwavering determination. They had come from all corners of the globe, each with their own unique story, but they all shared one thing: a deep, unshakable belief that they could change the world. "Maybe it's time to pass the torch," Leo said, his voice thoughtful. "We've laid the groundwork. Now it's their turn to take the lead." Amal smiled warmly, understanding the weight of Leo's words. "They're ready. The next generation is here, and they're more than capable." The Global Youth Leadership Summit was the perfect opportunity to highlight the next wave of leaders. It was a chance to see how the Connect initiative had come to life, and to celebrate the incredible work done by young people around the world. The summit was set to take place at the Academy, but this time, it would be even bigger and more inclusive. Representatives from every continent, every country, and every community would gather together to share their stories and continue the work they had started. As the summit began, the energy in the Academy was electric. Young leaders filled the halls, their faces full of hope and determination. The workshops, presentations, and collaborative sessions were filled with innovative ideas, all focused on creating a better, more sustainable world. One of the highlights of the summit was the Global Leaders Panel, where young leaders from different countries spoke about their experiences and the changes they had brought to their communities. Each leader shared their stories of perseverance, creativity, and the power of collaboration. Maya from India spoke about how education was now accessible to children who had previously been left behind. Rafael from Brazil discussed the ongoing reforestation efforts in the Amazon and the partnerships that had been forged with local communities. In Kenya, Kofi shared how sustainable farming had transformed the local economy and helped families thrive. And in the Philippines, Maria discussed the disaster preparedness programs that had saved lives during recent storms. The panel was a powerful moment for everyone in the room. It was a reminder of how far they had come and how much more was possible when people worked together. But the most powerful moment of the summit came when Leo and Amal took the stage. They stood together, looking out at the sea of young faces before them, faces filled with hope, determination, and a shared vision. For the future. We've always believed that young people hold the key to the future, Leo said, his voice steady. And today we are witnessing the beginning of a global movement, a movement led by you. You are the future, and you are the change the world needs. Amal continued, the work you've done, the lives you've touched, and the communities you've transformed are just the beginning. Your vision, your creativity, and your courage will shape the future in ways we can't even imagine. As they spoke, the students in the audience erupted into applause, their voices rising in a wave of energy that filled the hall. It was clear that this wasn't just an event. It was a new era, an era where young people were not just the leaders of tomorrow, but the leaders of today. The summit ended with a final act of unity, a global youth pledge. Every leader in the room stood together and took a pledge to continue their work, to support one another, and to ensure that the world they left behind was better than the one they inherited. We will lead with courage, compassion, and creativity, they said in unison. We will collaborate, we will innovate, and we will build a future without limits. As the summit came to a close, Leo and Amal stood together, looking at the bright future that lay ahead. They had done more than build an academy. They had ignited a movement. And now, that movement was in the hands of the next generation, ready to lead the world into a new era. The future was in their hands, and there was no limit to what they could achieve.